Do you have a great money.com board set up that has a lot of sub items that you need to send emails to, but you're not sure what the best way is? In this video, we're going to tackle that with a couple different options. So let's get started. So I went over to Monday and I created a board. We're going to call it the production demo board, and we're going to have a group called design change requests. And each one of these items is going to be its own project. And in the sub items are going to be the different design studios that we're going to be making the change requests to, or just like the proposal requests. And on the top item, parent item view or parent item, you can see I have a due date for them. I have a budget, and then I have a file that has info for the design request or proposal. And for this demo, I just put a picture of my dog. So Design Studio 1, 2, and 3, we have the status of whether or not they've responded or not, whether or not we've sent a request, and then we have a request sent date, email column, and then their name. So normally when you're trying to automate something, you'd come into the automation center, and then you'd look around for, say, like Gmail or Outlook or maybe even Supermail. Supermail is another app you could use, but none of them support sub-item emailing. So option number one would not be here in the automation center. You're going to have to actually go over to the workflows. So if you click the plus sign and then click on workflows here, and we're just going to call this email workflow. And this is available in all Pro and Enterprise tiers. And in Pro, you have 5 that you can have active at one time. Enterprise, don't quote me on it, but I want to say you could have like 100 or maybe 50, something around there. It was a lot more than 5. That's all I remember. So this is going to look very similar to using like Zapier or Make.com. So you're going to put in your trigger here, and there's a lot to search through here. So, if you just type in sub item, it'll give you a little bit shorter of a list. So we're going to trigger on when a sub item status changes, and we're going to choose our production demo, and then we're going to choose that send a request column. And then we're going to choose anytime from any status that it currently is, and then it goes over to request or send request. That's going to trigger this workflow. And then we're going to create an action that we're going to send an email. So I'm going to use my Gmail account, but you can see here, you could use Supermail, you can use Outlook, not sure what that R is. So then I'm going to choose my email accounts, and then I'm going to send it to the contacts in the sub item email. So I have the email column here, and then I'm going to, so you could CC yourself if you wanted, or BCC other people. And then I'm going to put design change request proposal. And now I'm going to say hello. Now you can choose, the dynamic variables from the columns within Monday. So I'm going to say hello, contact name. Please send a proposal for the attached requirements. And the requirements are a little unique because it's just a picture of a dog, but then we're going to do the budget column, and it was the due date column, I believe, and then just thanks. So the budget column, which is at the parent item level, which is nice that we can grab from both the parent and the sub item level. So we have here the item level, and then we have budget is what we were looking for. And I don't believe the $sign gets appended to that. And then we have the due date. And then that should be all set. You just click away. It should be all good. And then we're going to attach the file from the parent. And then everything should be all good. Publish workflow. All right, that's all good. Now we're going to go back to our production demo board and expand that. And let's click on the send request and see if that gives an email for us. So I just popped over to my email. It looks like it put in the name, hello, Charlie2, from the email address that I chose. it says the budget. Like I said, it didn't append the $sign, so you had to add that with a due date, thanks, and then the attachment. So it looks like everything went over just fine. And then if you wanted to, you could set some automations like, when send request is done, you can have it change the status of the overall sub item. So if you wanted to do something like this and waiting on supplier, create automation so that, you know, it's just the overall setting of this gets changed to waiting on supplier after send request happens. So, and additionally to request send date, you could just say whenever the status of that changes again. So whenever send request is send request, and then change the or set. If you click set date, and you can set the request sent date to today. So you can automate those parts of it as well. So all right, so option number 2 is a little bit more flexible. It's using make.com or Zapier. Typically, I like to use make.com. So if you open up make and then create new scenario. So I want to put these side by side just to give you a better view here. So there's multiple different ways you could do this. You could just create a webhook here. There's a lot of different options within Monday's modules, but I typically just like to go with a watch events. And then you can create your own webhook for this. So we'll call this just the production design demo. Click save. Now we have our webhook address. So we'll copy that to the clipboard, then go to our automation center, or you could go to integrate and then you type in webhook, go to your webhooks here. And there should be one that says when a status changes something, send a webhook. So we're going to use another account and then paste it in, click connect. So then we're going to say when send request changes to send request, create automation. All right, so now we're going to want to test out this connection to make sure it worked. So yeah, we'll start a run real quick. We'll just do a quick manual check on it. So it looks like that's great. Some bundles came over. We're all good. It looks like the workflow is still on. So let's turn that off so we don't accidentally mix up the two when we're looking at our emails. So you just click inactive here. Go back to the production demo. So now we'll get a get item is the next module we want to do to get the actual data from the other columns within the item that we're working on. So get item, and the get item will just use the pulse ID from the original trigger. And the pulse ID should be in here somewhere. So you have the board ID, group ID, pulse ID. So you map that over. Board, you don't really need to put this in per se, but I usually do anyways, just in case. So that should be good. Let's just run it real quick and press stop real quick. We'll just do a quick manual run of another one. And just so we have some more data coming in here. So click send request. So, yep, there we go. And the data came over. Yep, got multiple bundles. So now you can do a couple things. So I've done this before, and you could imagine if you send a whole bunch of these requests at one time, like if you just went in, clicked this, and then hit send request on all of these, and then all of them send an email at one time, it's probably going to throttle your email exchange, and your emails might not send out. So you could always put, like a sleep module in there if you wanted to. That's what I would suggest, so that you can make sure these aren't just all just hitting it all at one time. And you'll probably have to play around with the value, but I'll just put 5 seconds here for now. And then you can put in your email. So you can do just the standard email one, the email module, then make, and then sign in with whatever email you want. You could use Outlook, you could use Gmail. I already have a connection with Gmail, so I'm just do the Gmail module, send an email. And here you can start then mapping over the data that you had from your get item. So if you click on add recipients, I can go in and find the email. So let me see here. You have subitems and person status, due date, email. Yeah, these sometimes can take a while to find, as you could imagine, with all this data that you get. It's nice that you get it all, but sometimes it's a little bit cumbersome to have to search through all of it. All right. So with a little bit of movie magic, I have it all filled in now. So I just went through and mapped all of the data over to the appropriate field. So the recipient email, put in a subject here, design change request proposal, switch to HTML, put hello, then the contact's name, and then I'll be honest, I don't know a lot of HTML. I just know this is for break. So this will give you a line break, and then please send a proposal for the attached specifications, line break, another line break, and then budget, add in the $sign. This gives you the budget, the due date, and more line breaks. So the thing that I forgot to do is adding an attachment. So the flexibility here is kind of nice. So that's one thing that, if you're using make.com, or sorry, just like the Monday advanced workflows, you couldn't just get it from like a drive or something like that. So if we wanted to, there's multiple different ways. So we could do Google Drive if we wanted to, and we could just download a file that way. We could do Outlook or OneDrive. But if it's just in the Monday board, like we currently have it, we could just do a Monday file module. So if we go in here, and I think it's download a file. Yeah, download a file, and then asset ID. So now we have to go through here, and I think we could just type in asset ID and it'll pop up. So assets, column value. So this is the file here, and this is the asset ID for the file. So you're going to want to map that from the parent. And then when we go back into the Gmail module, we should be able to, yep, it already mapped it over here. So we'll click save, and that should be it. All right, so now's the moment of truth. But before we do that, there's a couple more things we could do. So what I would suggest is putting like a break in here. So what's that called? What's a break? The break, which is in flow controls, that's right. What the break will do, and you can attach this however you want. What the break will do is, say, for instance, you do overwhelm your email and it just fails. This will go back and make another attempt, and you can set the number of attempts and the intervals between attempts. So you could set it for however many minutes you want. So this will be for 15 minutes. You could do it for 1 minute, 2 minutes, whatever you want. You just have to make sure you come into the settings here and enable the allow storing of incomplete executions. So now if something happens and it doesn't work, it will actually do another try. And then last but not least, we could probably have this, if you wanted to have the status changed from here, say like when it's actually sent to request sent, we could do that as well. So we could add that module in here. If we just go to Monday, and then we'd have to map over the item ID and then that. So we'll just stick with this for now for the demo. So anyways, let's move, let's say 2 of these back and see if this works. So now we'll run it one time and we'll click send request. Everything looks like it went, and we're waiting on the sleep module now, and it looks like it's sent. And boom, looks like everything that we had in there, design change, request proposal, hello. I apparently didn't map the contact name correctly there, so I only mapped it right for up here. But please send a proposal for the attached specifications, budget, due date, thanks, and the attachment. So that's everything that you need to know to be able to send emails from the sub items of a Monday work management board. If you'd like any more help or something that's a little bit more complicated, feel free to reach out. All of my details are in the description below, and thanks for watching.